Good morning. Well, I think it's still morning. Yeah, it's still morning. Hi, I'm Erica, also known as Honoria12 on Ravelry and a few other places. I'll put links in the description for where you can find me on social media. And this is attempt number 2 at starting a podcast. I am a crafter of all types: knitting, crochet, spinning, weaving, cross stitch. And I'm using those things right now to keep myself sane while I'm self-isolating with the 3 other adults that live in the house. And yeah, so I just kind of want to scream into the void a little bit, share what I'm doing, and talk about how I'm coping with self-isolation during the pandemic that is going on around the world right now. I am a radiologic technology student, and unfortunately that means we've been kicked out of the hospital for the rest of the semester at least, and all of my classes are being conducted online. So it makes it really interesting trying to be a healthcare student during a healthcare crisis and not being able to help at the hospital, but also not really having the education and knowledge necessary to be helpful. So it's a little frustrating. I feel like I could be doing more, but what are you going to do? Anyway, this is a crafting podcast, so we're going to try real hard to stick to that. And I'm still new at this whole looking at the camera thing. I'm trying not to look at the screen and to look at the camera, so I feel like I'm talking to my audience of, 3 people. Anyway, so how I'm coping. When you are a crafter and you're a multi-crafter, you probably have a hard time deciding what to work on. If you're anything like me, even just as a knitter or a single crafter, you probably have lots of projects to work on. So one of the ways that I deal with having too many things on the needles, too many things on the go, we'll say, I use an app called Daily Decision, and this helps me a lot because I'm terrible at making decisions. I'm terrible at deciding what to do with my time, and if I need a distraction, I don't always know the best thing to choose in order to make progress on anything. So one of the things that I like to do is I use this Daily Decision app. It's just on my phone, and I don't know how clearly you'll be able to see it, but you create your own spinner wheel, and you hit the little spin button and it chooses one of your options. Now this one is just my crafting wheel, and I've got entries that say knitting, crochet, spinning, weaving, and cross stitch, because those are the primary craft things that I do. And right now what I'm deciding to do, instead of working on everything and jumping from project to project, I'm saying, what is my craft for the day? Today it's knitting, so I'll be working on the chosen knitting project. I'm also trying to finish projects and not start new ones, because that makes me feel even crazier. And so to the knitting project at the moment that I'm trying to put into practice when I need to work on stuff, if it's a knitting day and I need to work on knitting, this is the project that I chose to work on because it's been on the go for about 2 years now, a little over 2 years. I started in October in 2017, and this is the Hue Shift Afghan by Karen DeMeller Lawrence, who is one of the designers that works at KnitPicks. And I'm doing it's called the Baby colorway. It's basically a rainbow, but it's all pastels, and it's got a gray border, and I love it. So this is one quadrant. It's made of 100 squares, 4 quadrants of 25 squares each, and they're all mitered squares that you pick up and knit as you go. So there's one quadrant. And then we have the second quadrant, which is greens and blues and cream, and And then I'm on the third quadrant now. I don't know why this got put away and I wasn't working on it. It's a wonderful project if you need something mindless, because after you've done like 5 of these squares, it's a piece of cake. But there's the third quadrant. We're starting to mix the pinks and purples and greens together. It's a really beautiful project. It's easy. I'm using the recommended yarn, which is Brava Sport from Knit Picks. And like I said, it's in the baby colorway. So if you have the pattern, and I think the knit version's actually free now. It lists, there's 4 color sets that they came up with within the pattern. But of course, you can always come up with your own. I've seen some really beautiful ones where people just pick the colors they wanted to do, and there's a sequence. You do, you pick your color order and you go in order from top to bottom, and then you go in reverse order from left to right, and that creates the overlap of the colors, and you get this really amazing kind of eye-searing visual in a blanket. And it's a baby blanket, but it's 5 feet by 5 feet when you're done. So I mean, I'm pretty short, so I can fit under that pretty comfortably. And Brava Sport, if you go with the recommended yarn, it's pretty soft. So, and it's very machine friendly and everything, so it's easy to wash. I'm a big fan. So that's what I'm working on for knitting. It's Thursday, April 2nd, if you're keeping score. And I normally would have my local spinning group meets on Thursday mornings. We usually go to an Einstein Bagels and drink coffee and, do the things you do at a crafting meetup, right? I have 2 spinning wheels. I have a shacked sidekick and a shacked ladybug. The ladybug is used primarily for plying. I leave my bulky flyer on there and I do all my plying on it. But I take the sidekick everywhere because it's actually intended as a travel wheel. And then I have, so what I'm working on my spinning wheel is this gorgeousness. This is from Fierce Fibers. It's called Fairy Forest, and it is 100% Rambouillet, which, if you're familiar at all with fiber, Rambouillet is essentially French merino. It's technically a separate breed, but it's basically a merino sheep from France instead of Italy, where merino actually comes from. So I'm working on that. It's coming out pretty thin, which is not unusual for me, I have to say. Let me see if I can show you how thin this is. So yeah, I'm hoping, I haven't decided if I'm going to 2-ply this or 3-ply it. If I 3-ply it, I'll be chain plying it. I'm guessing I'll get about a fingering weight by the time I'm done. We'll see. It's going to depend. I mean, I'm afraid if I 2-ply it, then it's going to be a lot muddier, a lot more barber pulling than I typically like, but the colorway is such that I think it's going to be kind of, I don't want to say muddy because I think it's going to be beautiful, but there's lots of different colors in there, and it's kind of molding, meshing, melting into dirty green. Dirty is not the right word either. Dirty green in the sense that some people are dirty blondes. Like, their hair doesn't look dirty, it's just not... You probably know what I mean. We'll see. I didn't bring my crochet project in here, mainly because it's enormous. I'm a big fan of the Crochet Crowd, which is a website, and there's a Facebook group that goes along with it. And it's run by a guy named Mikey. And Mikey? Yeah, Mikey. And I'm in the Facebook group. They do stitch-alongs constantly. Beautiful, beautiful projects. And I started getting involved in doing them, oh gosh, year and a half ago? Oh, maybe it was only a year. I did their spring Afghan stitch-along. And actually kept up with it and finished it reasonably close to when everybody else did. But one of the things I really like about Mikey and the Crochet Crowd and how they do these things is that there is, for the stitch alongs, they do a YouTube series with tutorials for each part of the crochet along. So, and I mean, they walk you through the entire clue. Like, this is how you do these stitches. This is where you put your hook. Oh gosh, you're missing a stitch at the end of that round? Don't worry, throw one in here and you can make it work. It's all very beginner friendly. It's very de-stressing, I guess you could say. Crochet, I'm not great at. For some reason, I always had a hard time reading my fabric. I'm not great at knowing where the hook goes. But because I have essentially an expert walking me through everything, I've learned a lot. I've learned how to do different stitches. I've learned how to do different techniques. I've learned how to fudge it when I need to so that I don't have to rip things out. And I've gotten some nice projects out of it. I feel like I've become a better crocheter. I'm more proficient reading a pattern and making it do what it's supposed to do, and I appreciate that muchly. So if you're wanting to try crochet or you want to improve your crochet skills, I can't think of a better way to do it. My mom's been doing it too, and she's gotten a lot better. She's made some really, really beautiful projects. And I keep telling her how proud she should be of her work because it's really gorgeous. The project that I'm working on right now, the one that I do when my app tells me it's a crochet day, is the study of planet Earth, and it is a 7-part hexagonal afghan. So it's done in the round. It's got 6 sides. I'm on clue 6 of the 7, so the rounds take a little longer to complete. I'm at about, let's see, if there's 70 stitches on each side, I've got, what, is that 400? Yeah. Yeah, I've got about 400 stitches in a round, so it takes a while to get around it, especially since I'm not a very fast crocheter. I'm getting faster, but I'm not very fast yet. And I'm using Karen Big Cakes in the Afternoon Tea colorway. It's a worsted weight acrylic yarn with a, I guess it's a stripe, but the colors do kind of fade into each other, so it's self-striping, self-patterning gradient happiness. I'll put a picture. I need to put up a project page on Ravelry. For some reason, I never did that. But I'll do that. I'll get some pictures up so that you can see it. Like I said, it's huge. I didn't want to bring it in here, but it's a wonderful project. I enjoy it a lot. It's both a challenge and both mindless. It's I don't know. Maybe that's a hallmark of crochet. Once you know what you're doing, it's easier to do it without like staring and counting every single stitch and praying you got them in the right place. I love it. What can I say? Let's see, what else? Weaving. Again, this is something I have on my Ravelry page. I call it the Rainbow Gamp. Rainbow Gamp of Doom. Rainbow. What did I call it? Oh, it's just called Rainbow Gamp. I should have called it Rainbow Gamp of Doom. What I did was I have a shacked flip 30-inch, the big rigid heddle that Shacked makes. I'm using a 12-dent reed, which means ideally 12 stitches to the inch when you're done with the fabric. We'll see what I actually get. And I bought the Knit Picks palette sampler sets. They had a macaron sampler, so it's a bunch of pastels. There are 9 colors. Yes, 9 colors. And I set it up basically in a rainbow. So it starts with the 2 shades of pink, there's a white, there's a yellow, green, and then like 3 shades of blue, and then 2 shades of purple. And what you do in a gamp, if you're unfamiliar with weaving, is that when you set up your warp strings, you put them in a specific order. And when you're working the weft, those are the horizontal ones that you go back and forth with the shuttle, you do them in the same order in stripes. So what you end up with is this really beautiful plaid kind of pattern. It's tartans are a good example of a gamp. You go in the same order in both directions so that you end up with this plaid. And it's a good way to make a sample fabric of yarn that you want to work with, or fiber, whatever you're using, and you can look to see how the colors interact with each other, because you end up with blocks where each combination of two colors that are possible in the whole project will cross each other. I thought it might be a good way to get an idea if I wanted to do some color work mittens or something, how these colors work together. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. It's a little too wide to be a scarf, and it's probably going to be way too long to be anything but a table runner. I may just use it as fabric and try to sew bags or something. I haven't decided what I'm doing with it yet. But I think I've got maybe 2 more cranks on my loom before I can finish it up. It's been on my loom for a really long time, at least a year, more than, probably a year and a half, because I got stuck at one point. I just wasn't working on it, and it sat there. So when I got stuck at home and my mom said, I want to watch all the Marvel movies in order, because she'd never seen them, I said, great, let's do that. I moved my loom into the TV room, and I sat down with my mom and we watched all the Marvel movies, which was really, really fun for me, because my mom somehow managed to avoid anything that counts as a spoiler. She knew nothing. So when we got to the more significant movies and things like that towards the end of the Infinity Saga, she really just got invested in it, which was great. That's how you want to experience those movies. That's how you want to experience any movies. But when you're talking about a series of 23 films, you don't want to go into it already knowing what happens. So I'm really glad that she didn't. That's a tangent. Cross stitch. Okay, so I have, like knitting and like crochet, I have lots of cross stitch projects on the go. It's kind of a sickness. I have cross stitched longer than I've done anything else. I learned how to do it when I was between 6 and 8. I was 8 when I learned how to knit and crochet, but I didn't really stick with knitting and crochet. I got back into it when I was in college, and the first time. But cross stitch is something that I have done consistently since I was a kid, because it was easy and fairly inexpensive to get a hold of the materials. Patterns were easy to acquire even before the internet was around. There were places to, catalogs you could order from, and there were kits and things at the craft store. It was really easy. I didn't have to, think, gosh, what do I want to do? I could go look and say, hey, I can do that. So I have, in the last few years, I got addicted to annual stitch-alongs and the like, because it's a great way to do a large project, but it's not daunting because you have only a section that you can do each month. It only becomes a problem if you fall behind. So what I did was I actually chose 2 projects to work on during the quarantine. And when I get caught up on them or I complete them, this is the same with all the other things. If I finish something that's on the go, obviously I'm going to pick a different work in progress to continue working on. So in this case, for cross stitch, I have 2 projects that are annual stitch-alongs, and these are current. They are this year's annual stitch-alongs. One of them is from the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, and the other is from Linens and Threads. So, okay, so the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery this year it's called the Animal Almanac, and I am behind, so bear with me. So basically what you've got and I'm attempting some parking here, that's why it looks so messy, but they're snow globes, and each snow globe has a number underneath it to indicate, you know, which month of the year it is. So I'm still working on January. I started down from the middle of the fabric and I started doing the framing so that I had this grand plan to do the, you know, work my way up, do the first snow globe, and then fill in all of the other frames, because they do give you the whole layout at in the first clue, so that when the rest of the months came around, I could just fill in my snow globes. It didn't work out that way. School was really kicking my butt this semester, and I did not have a lot of free time. And then in February, I got ill, very ill. We still don't really know what happened, but I got really sick, and it was enough that I'm taking a break from school just in time to go in quarantine with everybody else. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so this is it. I just bought the kit right from Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery, so I got the fabric. This is from Picture This Plus. It is 28 count cashel linen in the colorway Heartland, again from Picture This Plus, who changed their name. They just changed their name, like Heartstrings or something like that. I'd have to check the email. Anyway, so there's that. I've got all the border almost all of the border underneath the number. There's a couple of single stitches that need to go in that I haven't done that yet. And I'm starting on, for January, it's a penguin, and I've worked out the edge of I need to go back and cross the X's for the January snow globe. And I'm really, really enjoying this. I love stitching on linen. It's funny, people always make the comment, how do you stitch on that? You can't see the holes. You can see I wear glasses, and my prescription is getting to a point now that they can't measure me right. Ugh, my glasses are terrible. They would be Coke bottles if they had to make lenses that way anymore, but I don't have too much trouble seeing it, because, you know, when it's in a frame like this, I can do this. I always make sure I have really good light. I just think it looks nicer, and the fabric is so soft. A lot of Aida, if you don't really spend good money, it's very stiff, and it never becomes softer, so that's something to consider. But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Aida, too. I just find that if I'm doing a project that's going to have half stitches, quarter stitches, or whatever, I do a lot better stitching over 2 on linen, and I do prefer, like, 28 count. When you get into your 32 count, that's when my eyes start crossing. And sometimes I get a headache. But I'm going to buy one of those. I was thinking about buying one of those headlamps. I think Energizer makes them. I found them on Amazon. I'm going to probably get one of those, and then I'll have a nice bright LED light looking down at my work. Especially, I just got a pattern, and obviously I can't start it because it's a new project. I can't start it until I finish everything else. But it's the Death Star from Star Wars, and it says "Ceci n'est pas la lune." This is not the moon. So it's a play on Han's quote, "That's no moon," but it's also a parody of the painting Treachery of Images, with the pipe, and it says "Ceci n'est pas une pipe." It's a whole thing. I wrote a term paper on it in grad school. I did a term paper for my humanities class when I went back to school about it. It's just one of my favorite pieces of art. So when I saw that, I'm a huge geek. So Star Wars, which I love, and this painting that of all pieces of art is pretty high on my list. Like, I have to do that. So I bought some black fabric and dipped into my stash, but I can't start it yet because I have rules, right? I have quarantining rules, and that involves sticking to the one project for each craft until, well, 2 in the case of cross stitch, I guess. maybe they count as separate ones because this one's done on Aida and this one's done on linen. But anyway, so here's the other one. This is the one from Linens and Threads. Linens and Threads does a annual sampler. I think this is their 4th year doing one. And it is a combination of Scandinavian and Quaker designs. It's all done in one color. And I'm just using some off-white, antique white. I think it's antique white. 14 count Aida, 100% cotton, right? And I'm using DMC 995. I'm still working on the January clue, but this is the top left corner of the whole piece with a 3-inch border. And my little needle minder says feeling stabby. I got that on Etsy. I think it's hilarious because, I mean, isn't that the perennial joke with cross stitch? I stabbed this thing 10,000 times. You don't want to mess with me? Right? So that's what I'm working on. Like I said, today is a knitting day, so I'll be working on my hue shift Afghan, trying to make progress on that. And like any good nerdy fiber artist, I'm watching TV while I do it. I do have class today, so I'll have to log on to that for like an hour and a half. And I'll probably be knitting during that class because that's how I roll. And then I'll spend the rest of the day. I don't know what we're going to watch. My husband and I watch everything together, although he's working today, so I probably get to watch something he doesn't care about. I fell behind on all my TV during school, so I'm getting caught up right now. Binge watching a lot of like complete seasons of things that I haven't been able to keep up with. I just finished watching Barry, the 2nd season of Barry. It's an HBO show with Bill Hader and Stephen Root and Henry Winkler. And it's fantastic. It's dark, but it's really funny. It's really quick. I don't know, if you're into dark humor, you may be into that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really expecting a huge audience for this. I have no idea how to make an audience bigger. I don't know how much more work I need to do with setup and editing and whatever, but that's something I can work on. I don't know. What do you guys think? If you like what you see, you want to see more, you have some ideas, just want to give me suggestions on what to work on, you can go to my Ravelry project pages and see what's a work in progress and tell me what to work on next, because I am going to finish this eventually. I'm 3/4 of the way through it, and I knit really quickly, so if I spend entire days knitting on it, I could probably finish it by the end of the week if I have lots of knitting days. Thanks, app. So yeah, all of my social media information is down in the description. I'll probably set up a Ravelry group, fan group, I don't know, at some point. Yeah. I'm new at this, can't you tell? But I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'd be willing to watch more. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll try to keep posting things. Yeah. Keep knitting, keep crafting. Try not to go nuts. And I'll see you next time. Bye.